Neural interface tech's all the rage these days, and some of the toughest competition in the history of business has taken place in the tech arena. It sounds like tech companies are out to see who can build the most dubious gadgets, including ones that can read our minds. In this video, we'll talk about what Zuckerberg had to say about Musk's new technology. First off, Zuckerberg went off. We didn't even know that Zuckerberg could have opinions this strong. But in this exclusive Joe Rogan interview, he had a lot to say when he was asked about what he thought of Neuralink. First, he downplayed it by saying that normal people won't be able to use it in the next 10 to 15 years. Then he said that people wouldn't let someone put chips in their brains and test their minds with a technology that isn't ready yet. Musk might have recently said he'll give us an update by Halloween, but Zuckerberg's pretty sure that normal people won't want to put something in their brains for fun. Well, at least not for the next 10 to 15 years. Come on, this isn't Black Mirror. But it's not the implant part that bothers him. No way. This is the CEO of Meta we're talking about. He just thinks there could be a better version of a brain implant instead of the one you have to update every year. Coming up, has Neuralink gone too far? Mark claims that Musk's brain chip technology is super far because Neuralink's implant can record and activate brainwaves, which Musk says will help people with problems like obesity and disabilities. At first, these comments seem kind of reasonable, especially if you look at the fact that Neuralink plans to work with Synchron, a neurotech company that's about to start human trials of a device called Strentrode to help people with paralysis. But even if Zuckerberg's comments are seen as a competitor's rant, we've heard that Neuralink needs to be looked at with a critical eye. Why? Well, because technologies like this have a long history of being used for commercial purposes, like Tesla's self-driving cars, under the pretense of helping charities. And the last thing we want is another way of being watched by big data. Not to mention, what exactly is Neuralink supposed to be? In case you didn't know already, let's recap what it's supposed to be. Neuralink is basically working on making a device that will let a computer turn your thoughts into actions once it's implanted in your brain. Eventually, this would let anyone do anything we do now, like typing or pressing buttons, by just thinking about what they want to happen. Musk also said we'd be able to send information from a computer back into the brain, and for that, we'll all need brain-computer interfaces, or BCIs, in the future. He thinks that the only way to keep up with the rapid development of artificial intelligence will be to become cyborgs and merge with machines, because that's totally not the plot of every other robot takeover movie. If that sounds crazy, it's because it is. But this is Elon Musk we're talking about here, the person who's done the most to make electric cars possible, and who regularly sends satellites and astronauts into space on rockets. Not only that, though, it also safely brings the booster stages back to Earth, sometimes vertically and sometimes on floating barges so that they can be used again. Up next, what about Zuckerberg's own tech? While we're on the subject of what's ethical and what's not, is Zuckerberg really the best person to be dismissing Musk's technology, especially with Facebook's own problematic mind interface technology? So obviously, he was asked about the project. As always, he was quick to respond with the fact that the Facebook tech was different because they were working with a neural interface that could make Meta more like the real world, because that's totally not threatening at all. Zuckerberg then also said that all he wants is for virtual technology to feel real and human to us. Yikes! Apparently, the neural interface is better because it just reads human brain signals and doesn't manipulate them like Musk's technology's planning on doing. Last but not least, he took the opportunity to talk about the neural interface. And of course, since he's already criticized Musk's tech, it was time to praise his own. He talked about how the neural interface worked so that the whole idea was to allow AR to connect to wrist twitch movements. That way, you'd be able to communicate without having to talk or text. How would that work? Well, the Meta CEO said that all you gotta do is imagine that you're busy in a meeting and you suddenly get a text in the corner of your glasses. And of course, you can't respond right away, but at the same time, you're also worried and have to. That's where this tech comes in. With a neural interface, all you'll have to do is flick your wrist, and you'll be able to send a message without anyone even noticing. That sounds wild, right? But we might have to wait a while before we get to use it. Facebook's still working on getting wearable devices like these ready. They can pick up brain signals from other parts of the body. And this is obviously different from Neuralink because it's not like inside our brain. Zuckerberg summarized it as a type of Fitbit for your brain. Finally, when will we get to see Musk's chip in action? Well, there have been a lot of delays recently, but with the recent deal, the whole idea to get human trials running by the end of this year. And hopefully, no one gets hurt in the process. It's pretty easy to see why this is all taking some time, though. They're currently working on two pieces of technology. The first one's a chip that would be put in a person's head and have electrodes that would spread out into their brain. It's about the size of a coin that would be put into a person's head. From the chip, a bunch of wires that are each about 20 times thinner than a human hair spread out into the patient's brain. The second's a robot that could put the chip in by itself. Like a sewing machine, the robot would use a stiff needle to punch flexible wires coming from a Neuralink chip into a person's brain. Here's some other related news you might have missed out on. To start with, tech capital flooded in India. The climate crisis is only getting worse day by day. Many people's lives have been messed up in the southern Indian city of Bengaluru because of 2 days of heavy rains that caused traffic jams, power outages, and floods that swept into homes and covered roads. India's tech capital was underwater for a second day on Tuesday as more rain fell during an unusually wet monsoon season. The city of about 8.5 million people in the southern state of Karnataka grew quickly in the 1990s. It's now known as the back office of the world because it's home to many outsourcing and software companies. But businesses in the city have complained that infrastructure development hasn't kept up, like there are always traffic jams and unplanned construction on the dried up beds of lakes, which causes flooding even when it only rains a little bit. Moving on to infrared light transmissions. A group of scientists from Sejong University in South Korea was able to send power wirelessly over a distance of 30 meters just through infrared light transmissions. When they were testing the wireless laser charging system, they sent 400 megawatts of light safely and used it to power an LED light. As if that wasn't cool enough already, they also put together a system with a transmitter and a receiver. When both are in the same line of sight, they can be used to get power from light. But if something gets in the way between the transmitter and the receiver, the system goes into a power save mode where it stops sending energy. This is obviously supposed to make the system as safe as possible. The power source for the transmitter is an erbium-doped fiber amplifier with a wavelength of 1,550 nanometers. They let us know that this range of wavelengths is safe and won't hurt people's eyes or skin at the power level it'll be used. It was made in 1987 and it is often used to make up for signal loss during long-distance fiber optic transmission. We've heard the team's now working on making the system work better and making it bigger. Why? So that LOT sensors in smart factories can be used before the technology can be used for other things. Lastly, Hubble telescope's latest find. This telescope's been on a roll this year with finding some of the most interesting events in space. Recently, it took a beautiful picture of two overlapping spiral galaxies. Even though it looks like the two galaxies are colliding in the picture, they aren't. From Hubble's point of view, they just look like they're lined up. It looks like this image was roughly based on Galaxy Zoo project highlights. You might be wondering, what's that? Well, basically, Galaxy Zoo is a huge citizen science project that started in 2007. Thousands of volunteers help classify galaxies based on how they look. Using pictures taken by robotic telescopes, these volunteers put galaxies into groups. Scientists use them to sort through the huge amounts of data that these telescopes produce. That's a wrap for this video. What do you think the future of Elon Musk's technology will look like? Will it be another overhyped thing like his other ideas, or will it actually develop into something solid? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.